This is Mark Bedore with the Garden Grove TV3 News Report. The solemn music of bagpipes. Ready! A 21-gun salute.
Father, mercy, and God of consolation.
Prayer, and the voices of the Bolsa Grande High School Choir.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies.
As Garden Grove Police, fellow officers from other departments, and the community gathered for the 30th annual Call to Duty Police Memorial to honor the city's fallen five police officers killed in the line of duty.
Myron Trapp, Andy Reese, Donald Reed, Michael Rainford, and Howard Dallies Jr. are the true heroes of this police department and the community they served.
The ceremony recalled the tragic incidents that took their lives.
Officer Reed was attempting to arrest a suspect when the suspect turned and fired a handgun, June 7th, 1980.
And the debut of a documentary from Garden Grove TV3, produced for the memorial's 30th anniversary, paid tribute to how these men lived.
They were people who loved and were loved.
And what made them precious to those who knew them.
My dad loved anything Western.
The captivating personal stories were a highlight of the service, recalling the unique men who have now been gone for decades and the sacrifice they made. It's been nearly 25 years since Garden Grove last added a name to its police memorial, but these are wounds that time does not heal.
It still gets emotional for me.
And the streets remain as dangerous as ever, if not more so. Whittier Police Chief Jeff Piper spoke of the recent murder of his officer, Keith Boyer.
A senseless, brutal act carried out by a Pelican Bay gangbanger thug.
And David Kling remembered last year's tragic murder of his own daughter, Palm Springs officer Leslie Zarebny.
She was the light of our life, literally.
As those officers in Garden Grove's fallen five are honored, their sacrifice is a painful lesson for those who serve today.
Their sacrifice should inspire us to be the best of what law enforcement has to offer. Although times are changing and the job is becoming increasingly more complex and dangerous, we must do everything in our power to never add another name to this memorial wall and honor the legacy of these men.
This is Mark Bedore reporting.
Sergeant Myron Trapp, Officers Andy Reese, Don Reed, and Michael Rainford. Master Officer Howard Dallies Jr. Heroes all. Each gave his life to the people of Garden Grove. Each remembered for their service and sacrifice to the police department that became their second family. But these dedicated police officers were much more than a badge and a gun, more than public servants who made the ultimate sacrifice. They were people who loved and were loved. They were talented, passionate, funny, and often brilliant. We could never tell you the whole story of what these five men were like. They were unique characters who touched other people's lives in extraordinary ways.
My dad loved anything Western. He read Western books, loved Western movies, and he sang numerous cowboy songs. And he yodeled perfectly. So most people didn't know he could yodel.
Bet you didn't know that about Myron Trapp, who was a strawberry picker in San Juan Capistrano long before he became a police officer.
He always had something. He dismantled abandoned homes. He would be called to dismantle the homes, and he was allowed to keep the wood or reclaim any parts of the house that could be reused.
He did stints as a pottery thrower, a UPS driver, and a surveyor. At some point after serving in the military, he had to get serious about supporting his family.
My mother asked my father, well, what did you play when you were young? And he said, cops and robbers.
There was no way he was going to be a robber, so Myron Trapp became a Garden Grove police officer.
Myron Trapp was my dad's best friend. My father and Myron started at Garden Grove together. They were both original officers in 1957.
I remember him in his uniforms, and then I remember when he made sergeant, he wore a suit, and it was such a change.
Trapp didn't talk about the stresses of police work at home. He focused on family.
When he came home in the evenings, my dad would of course talk to all of us, and we always ate our meals together. He assisted in cooking. He made the hottest chili in the world.
One time, 8-year-old daughter Christina got to see her dad in action.
I was fortunate one time he had to run an errand, and he heard on the radio that there had been a robbery and they were investigating. Going with my father to the scene was quite impressive. I was told not to touch anything. I remember walking alongside of him. It was so much adult conversation going on that was way over my head, but it was fun in a way to watch my dad and see the respect that he was given.
That respect was earned through hard work.
My dad would use Myron as an example for me when we would discuss police work. He always felt that part of Myron's success was that he outworked everybody.
He wanted to help people. My father believed in justice. He believed right from wrong. And he wasn't afraid to speak or act the way he felt it was necessary.
Sergeant Trapp, it turns out, was a frequent visitor at the home of Officer Andy Reese.
My dad started with the police force in 1957, and ironically, I went to high school from 57 to 61, and I remember him working every football game that I went to. He was there working the football game.
Reese had been quite the athlete, playing both football and baseball and setting track records. Reese was also a proud Navy man.
He was a metalsmith in the Naval Air stationed at Los Alamitos for 18 and a half years before he retired.
Reese was a family man, but he was also passionate about cars.
In fact, that's one of the reasons that he worked 2 jobs in addition to being on the police department, was because he always wanted to have a new car every couple of years. He had a 49 Mercury, I remember, a 51 Mercury, a 54 Ford Crown Victoria, and a 57 Ford Fairlane 500 with a police interceptor engine, and then he had a 59 Thunderbird.
I think his cars were his best friends. He just loved the cars.
Sarah Clanky lived across the street from Reese.
Andy had a funny grin. Devilish, maybe. It wasn't broad, it wasn't wide. It was more a twinkle in his eye. But he had a little bit of a turn of the mouth and this devilish eye, and you knew something was going on back there.
The once shy little girl soon became a teenager with a driver's license, a 51 Chevy, and the need for speed.
And so I was just flying down Lamson. And suddenly I see and hear, whoa, 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 in bright lights. So I knew I'd been busted. I pulled over and the policeman comes up, starts giving me, starts asking me, what do you think you're doing, little girl? And I started to answer him, and I have no idea why I looked back at the squad car behind us, but there's Andy Reese sitting in the police car, laughing himself silly. He didn't exactly set me up because I'm the one who set the speed of the car, but he came after me purposely to scare the living daylights out of me, which he did.
Reese may have had a laugh at a lead-footed neighbor girl's expense, but he took his police work seriously.
What I can remember my dad saying about Andy was that he was squared away. He really thinks that his military background really helped him. He would train so many new people, and you usually don't have reserves training regulars.
There are a lot more things you should know about Andy Reese, but here are two. He loved a good cigar.
To this day, every time I smell a cigar smoke, I think about him.
And he was once a performer, playing the trombone so well that his band appeared in music magazines of the day.